The traveler smiled faintly. "I am a keeper of stories, and the tale of the golden mirror is one I know well. It is an artifact of great power, but also of great danger. You are not the first to seek it, and you will not be the last. But you, Ikenna, are different. The mirror saw something in you, something it has never seen in anyone else." Ikenna frowned. "What do you mean?" "The mirror shows more than just futures. It sees the very essence of those who look into it. It has marked you because you have the potential to change not only your own fate, but the fate of others. It is not done with you, and soon it will call to you again. You must be prepared." Before Ikenna could ask more, the traveler turned to leave, his form disappearing into the shadows as quickly as he had come. Ikenna stood in silence, the weight of the traveler's words heavy on his mind. In the days that followed, the village became increasingly unsettled. The golden glow in the forest grew stronger, and some villagers began to fall ill, their dreams filled with visions of the mirror. Ikenna knew then that the mirror's influence was spreading, reaching beyond the cave and into the hearts of the people. One night, unable to ignore the call any longer, Ikenna gathered his gear and set off once more into the forest. This time he wasn't searching for the mirror, it was pulling him toward it. The path seemed easier to follow, as if the forest itself was guiding him back to the cave. When he reached the entrance, the golden light inside was brighter than ever. The air was thick with energy, and the symbols on the cave walls seemed to pulse with life. As Ikenna stepped inside, the mirror stood waiting, just as it had before, but this time it was different. The surface of the mirror no longer reflected the future, but swirled with images of the present, of his village, his people, and the danger they were now in. The mirror must be destroyed. A voice whispered from the shadows. Ikenna turned to see the same shadowy figure from his vision, standing before him. "But how?" Ikenna asked. "The mirror feeds on desire, on the choices people make. It shows them what they want most, but demands a price. To destroy it, you must face what you desire most and let it go." Ikenna swallowed hard, knowing the challenge that lay ahead. The mirror had shown him his greatest temptation once before: power, wealth, a kingdom. But now he realized what he desired most was something far deeper: the safety of his people, the freedom to live without fear of the mirror's curse. With a deep breath, Ikenna approached the mirror. The swirling images intensified, and he felt the weight of the mirrors pull on his soul. But this time he didn't hesitate. He raised his staff and struck the mirror with all his strength. The cave shook violently as the mirror shattered, its golden fragments flying into the air and dissolving into nothingness. The golden light faded, and the symbols on the walls dimmed. The curse had been broken. As Ikenna emerged from the cave, the forest felt lighter, as if a great burden had been lifted. He returned to the village, where the people had already begun to recover, the influence of the mirror fading from their minds. From that day on, the legend of Ikenna grew even stronger. He had not only faced the golden mirror, but had destroyed its power, freeing his people from its curse forever. Though he had once been tempted by the mirror's promise, Ikenna had learned the greatest lesson of all: that true strength comes not from power, but from the choices we make to protect those we love. Despite the calm that returned to Umuahia, Ikenna couldn't shake the lingering weight of his journey. He had destroyed the golden mirror, severing its hold on the village and the forest, but he sensed that not all was resolved. Something far older, more ancient than the mirror itself, had been disturbed. Weeks passed without incident, yet Ikenna felt a presence watching him, lurking at the edges of his dreams. It wasn't the mirror, he was sure of that, but something tied to it. A darkness, unseen but unmistakable, clung to the forest. One evening, as the sun sank into the horizon, painting the sky with hues of red and purple, Ikenna was visited by a familiar face, the mysterious traveler who had warned him before. "The mirror's destruction has done more than free your village," the traveler said as he sat by Ikenna's fire. It has awakened forces that had been dormant for centuries. Ikenna frowned. What kind of forces? The mirror was just one part of a much larger network, the traveler explained, his tone grave. There are many artifacts like it, scattered across the world, each with its own power. They were created by ancient beings who sought to control the flow of fate. By shattering the mirror, you have disrupted their delicate balance. Ikenna felt a chill creep up his spine. So, you're telling me there's more out there, more mirrors, more artifacts? Yes, the traveler replied, and not all of them have been destroyed. Some are hidden, waiting to be found. Others are in the hands of those who know how to wield their power, and not all of them use it wisely. Ikenna stared into the fire, the flickering flames reflecting the turmoil in his mind. He had thought his battle was over, but now it seemed he had merely opened the door to something much larger. So what now? Ikenna asked, his voice barely above a whisper. You have a choice, the traveler said, leaning closer. You can stay here in your village and live in peace, or you can seek out the other artifacts. The forces behind them are stirring, and there are those who will seek to use them for their own gain. If no one stops them, they could plunge the world into chaos. Ikenna's heart pounded in his chest. He thought of his village, the peaceful life he had fought so hard to protect. He could stay here, grow old, and let the world move on without him. But deep down, he knew that wasn't the man he was. I can't ignore it, can I? Ikenna asked, already knowing the answer. The traveler smiled faintly, as though he had expected nothing less. No, Ikenna, you cannot. The world needs people like you, those who can resist the allure of power and seek to protect others. But the road ahead will be dangerous. You will face things far more terrible than what you saw in the mirror. Ikenna stood, his eyes scanning the darkened forest around him. He felt a pull once more, but this time it wasn't to the cave or the golden mirror. It was to the unknown, to the greater adventure that awaited him beyond the borders of his village. I'll do it, Ikenna said, his voice steady. I'll find the others, but I won't be alone in this. The traveler nodded. Indeed, you will not. There are others like you, those who have encountered these artifacts, some who have resisted, and others who have fallen. You must find them, and together you may stand a chance. The next morning, Ikenna prepared for a new journey. His grandmother, though frail with age, understood his decision without him needing to explain. She kissed his forehead and gave him her blessing, knowing that her grandson's path would always lead him to where he was needed most. Before he left, Ikenna gathered a small group of trusted friends, warriors and wise men from the village who had stood by his side before. They, too, sensed the shifting energies in the world and were ready to fight alongside him. As Ikenna and his companions set off into the wilderness, leaving behind the village that had shaped him, they ventured toward the unknown, a world filled with ancient powers, hidden dangers, and the promise of even greater mysteries than the golden mirror. The journey ahead was uncertain, but Ikenna had learned one important truth. No matter how dark the path, a heart guided by courage and wisdom could always find a light. The legend of Ikenna was far from over. It was just beginning. The dense forest gave way to open plains as Ikenna and his small band of companions traveled further from the safety of Umuahia.